Hi, my name is Nikheel Aphale. I was born and brought up in Mumbai, and I studied applied arts from Rahida School of Art, where I was first introduced to the world of calligraphy. Later, I did post-graduation from National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, specialized in graphic design. So today's presentation is all about my encounters and experiments with the later forms. And I got an opportunity to apply them in some interesting contexts and uh, in some commercial and non-commercial applications. So let me just share the presentation with you guys. I started the calligraphy journey seriously when I moved to Delhi for a job in a design studio. And there I had a plenty time on the weekends or maybe the office hours. And I started doodling and sketching out something on the paper. And subconsciously or automatically, I was drawing the letter forms. Mostly, I was just experimenting with the letter form. There was no any agenda or any thoughts behind it. I was just having a fun with the materials, the tools, whatever are the papers available with me. So all my sketchbooks and the notepads were filled with these doodles like a I or a da da di di ka kha ga ga, etc. etc. And after that, I actually started my blog and I started showcasing my and sharing my work on that blog. And through that blog, uh, I got a lots of inquiries to do a small odd jobs through the blog from friends, word of mouth. You know, the jobs like making like a nameplate and some invitations or greeting cards or a tattoos or some calendar assignments. So this is one I did for my colleague. So the theme was a festival of India. It's not directly the calligraphy usage, but I use the calligraphy as a medium to create the illustrations. And the theme was a festival of India. So each month it represents with the that corresponding festival. Like January is Kite Festival, February Mahashivratri, Kerala Boat Race, October is in Diwali, etc., etc. And so all these my experiments and these smaller jobs, I compiled it in one portfolio and I started sharing with design studios, agencies, publication house. Basically, I wanted to collaborate with different people so where I can, offer my this calligraphy service. And obviously, the graphic design was a first choice because I trained in the graphic design and I wanted to use calligraphy as communication tool. And so similarly, in that case, I sent this portfolio to the Penguin Books, and the art director, they really liked my work, and she offered me to design the first book cover, the Jimmy the Terrorist. I'll just run you through the kind of a book covers I did. I'm not getting much into the details of the story and everything, but I'll briefly discuss the process. When the editor and the art director uh, give you the manuscript or the synopsis, you go through it in a very detailed way in a graphic design point of view. So you find out who's actually the target audience, where exactly it is safe, what is the genre. It is like a fiction, non-fiction, it's a historic, it's a scholarly, uh, literary kind of the content, or it is very a mass market. So you everything you get to know about it, then you get to know about the visual clues included in the books, and you started sketching about your ideas. And not necessary, I would like to mention here that whenever I get a chance to work on any book covers, it's not always I end up doing in a calligraphy or a typography way. So there were the instances where I have created the book covers with the different approaches like a photography or an illustration based. So it what exactly the content dictates, you come up with the design solution. So this was my first book cover, and we all enjoy the process, and everybody was happy with the outcome. And uh, so after that, I started working with mostly all the publication houses from India, like HarperCollins, Speaking Tiger, Rupa, Rowley, Bloomsbury, everything. So these are the few book covers I designed for many of these publishers. The interesting part of the book covers is you get to work on a different stories, different genres, and that excites me a lot. Like you get to read the stories for the first time, and it was a challenging as a designer to come up with the different kinds of a lettering, which actually talks about the essence and the flavor of the story. Because the book cover is like, like a movie poster, and you have to like tell the story in size of say A5 or like a B format or the hardback size. And you can't reveal everything on the cover. And basically, it should create interest what exactly this book is all about. And that is a very challenging aspect of the book cover. This is a Mark Tully's Non-Stop India, Rupi Baski, which is set in the Santhal village. The Shahriyar is a Urdu poet and a lyricist, though the lettering changes into some of the classical style, very old uh, style of the Latin. Then the series which I created for Kushwant Singh's Women, Love and Sex, Religion. This is a Manjushri Thapat's. All these books were set in a Nepal landscape. And so all the stories were revolved around that. It's a combination of a fiction and non-fiction. This one is a Ruskin Bond, a little book of friendship and life. He curated a few quotes based on the different subjects. Again, when I got the brief, so it was a very interesting discussion with the art director, see how we can actually go about this book cover. And the publisher wanted to make it like a very collectible items, like, the pocket-friendly diary sort of a things. So instead of just writing the quotes one after the other, how can we actually create an interest to it? So we decided to enlarge few quotes, make in a very stylized way or calligraphic, uh, give a calligraphic touch to the few quotes in between the books. So it works as a filler or it breaks the monotony. Just that, going one by one after this ruled line. So there is this one, the enlarged quote. So it creates an interest to it. So it's basically the graphic designer's job doesn't stay only or restricted only to the covers, but they think about or think through the how the entire book is going to be and what value addition you can add to it. So this is another sets of book from the same series, a little book of a courage, beauty. So there are different subjects as obviously the choice of the tools, choice of the paper, the amount of the texture, the softness, hardness, everything actually depends on the tone of the book and the subject. These are some few spreads. This was another interesting project I did with HarperCollins India. So they come up with a set of 10 books. These are the regional translation into the English. There are a few languages like Kannada, Bengali, and Punjabi. And they wanted to come up with this series where they're talking about the regional and how the vernacular, the stories are the key and highlight points of this set. So that was a brief, and then instead of using any visuals from individual story, we decided to work on the script as a hero. Why can't we celebrate our Indianness and the Indian script or Indian languages on a front cover, giving them like more attention to it rather than going for the individual story. And that is the kind of a look we decided for the series. And this won the Curious Design Awards, the Blue Elephant for the design for works. This was a process. Obviously, every time it starts from the paper and then move on to the tools. Basically, the content and your thought process actually dictates the what kind of a tool and the color palette and maybe even the texture of the paper. Then I got an opportunity to work on this a children's book written by brilliant Kamla Bhasin and published by Pratham Books. It's in a collaboration with the art director Maithili Doshi and illustrator Priyanka Gupta. So this book is talk about the modern age Varnamala, where the author, the Kamla Bhasin, who's a child activist and a feminist, she wanted to introduce the beautiful thoughts about the equality, gender, child rights, etc., etc., uh, in the form of this Varnamala. but in a very interesting and not so preachy way. And the route we decided to do with again like a hand lettering, very interesting and a crazy kind of a form which children could relate to it. And we added these illustrations to simplify these thoughts because some of the concepts are like really difficult, even for even the adults to understand or to grasp it. And so these are just to complement whatever the text is written. So it was a more like a expressive, illustrative typography. Good example of that. Again, behind the scene. So there were like a piles of papers. I won't say wasted, but uh, did the explorations on the different kinds of a writing. Then you have to maintain the legibility aspect also, other than if it's communicating what the theme is. And I worked on a few logos, the titles. So for each and every the style, there was some kind of a story behind those drawing of the letters. It was a movie title, Khargosh. Then TV titles. It's a performance space. It's called Nadamai. Sitari is the name of the restaurant. Nathadwara was an exhibition of the Pichwai paintings. Sham Suvarna was another exhibition launched during the Diwali about black and gold saris. So I did like the little branding, like the posters and banners and little bit of a catalog. The Vogue magazine approached 4 to 5 typographers and lettering artists to create a stamp based on the theme of hope during the pandemic around 2020. Yeah. And so initial thought was like, okay, I'll write a hope in a very interesting way, giving the positive vibes. But then I thought that's very cliche, and why can't we actually uh, write a very inspirational quote? So I found this the song written by Sahir Ludhianvi, and there was one line in that Raat Bhar Ka Hai Mehman Tera. So broadly, it translates like it's always darkest before the dawn, or like, this shall to pass. And that's what we actually needed during that time. I did this in credits for One Asia organization. This was the event happened in Taiwan, and I was a part of it as a volunteer and a visual artist. So I did this lettering and the credits on the last day of the performance. So while working on all this, I was very keen on trying the calligraphy in a different medium, in a different dimension. And I wanted like the calligraphy to be, why can't it be a part of our like a daily lives? And so I was looking for these kind of opportunities, and through my self-initiated project and also from through organization, I got an opportunity to fulfill that thing. So one of the project I work on it like with the carpet company. This is a rug making company in Panipat. Uh, so they invited 11 artists and designers to work in their factory to create some art installations. It was a kind of an artist in residency sort of a program. So we stayed there for almost 1 year. Obviously, we were like coming back home in between. And so we interacted with the weavers and the craftsmen and the artisan, and we used all their the printing and the weaving facilities to create this art installation or a tapestry. So the first one is about the genie, the Kabir's that poem, Kahe Ka Tana Kahe Ka Bana. And the letters I have used is from the braiding technique, which is a very important facility from that factory. And the background patchwork you are saying it is with all the natural woods. And this was the final outcome. So all these artworks were exhibited in an art gallery in Delhi at the end of the residency. This was my second piece where I use the two letters Ko and Ro and play with that while adding the diacritic marks, the Kana Madras. It changes the meaning but follows in the same context. So the letters were K and R, and so through that I have made Kar, Kora, and Kari. Kar means hand, Kar means Shilpakar, Chitrakar, like it were, and the Kora is white cloth, of course, and Kari is like craftsmanship, uh, Shilpakari, Chitrakari, and that sort of a thing. And the color palette is a very wide and subtle and subdued because, in contrast with the actual mood and vibe of the factory, because it's very, very chaotic, it's super noisy, there is a hustle bustle in there. But I wanted to capture the relation between the craftsman and the creation. The relation between them is very, very serene, and they are so well connected that, and they are so proud of whatever they are creating it. And that's why I wanted to show that piece in contrast with what's happening in surrounding, the clutter. There are the few close-ups and you can see some textures. This was my third piece based on the collaboration. It was actually a collaborative effort between the craftsman and me. I asked them to choose their own color palette, and I gave them a few options of my layout, so they approved this. So basically, for them, the brush is their tool, the tufting tool, and for them, the ink is the wool. And taking that as a starting point, we created both together this craft, uh, the carpet. Here, I work with Kashmiri Namda craftsmen to create the rug using the curves Barakhadi, the Ka Kiki to Kaha. It's very interesting process and outcome because so you how your sketch is getting translated into this final product or in a different medium like a textiles, and during in that process sometimes it's get distorted or it's become imperfect, but I like this translation because I think it adds more beauty to your letters. Then using some metals, hard surfaces, and apply my calligraphy there. Like taking the advantages of the letter forms, like making it in a geometric style, like a grid-like structure, and I created a lamp. These are all the consonants converted uh, into the lamp. It's a different material, MDF, and this is what it throws light. The turtle again the geometric abstraction of the letter forms and how you can taking the advantage of these forms and use it as a functional aspect to it, so you can keep your books, knickknacks, and any other your accessories at home. These are the close-ups. The trays, these are annealing powder coated ones, and created a coasters on the tray as a set. So I'm concluding this my presentation with my favorite topic is art. The calligraphy can also be applied it in the art, and especially the Devanagari script, which I feel is unexplored as an art form, and it has a tremendous potential to be on a global platform. So everybody is aware of, the Persian script or Arabic script and Japanese and Chinese, but uh, the Indian scripts or Devanagari script, they are not so very well recognized as an art form. So my practice now, I'm primarily focusing on contemporizing the Devanagari script. And so these are my some sketches and the final artworks. I love this space of creating the artwork because there is no brief, there is no agenda, or there is no client pressure. And this is my own self-expression. And another thing is actually it helps me for my other projects. It's kind of a creating a visual library. And so through these experiments, I get to know, okay, these are the possibilities these letters are offering. So maybe I can use it in some of my other projects, provided it should suit the subject. Uh, this is the artwork I created from one event in Japan for earthquake, uh, really fun. It's written Rise and Shine. This was a series I created, like a sacred stroke, using all our Sanskrit shlokas and verses and depicting in a very contemporary manner. So it's targeted mainly to the young audience who won't be hesitant to, put this religious kind of mantras on their wall at home. This is the latest series on Varnamala. Uh, Basically, I am correlating the Devanagari letter forms with the humankind's. When you look at the Varnamala of a Devanagari, there are many letters are from a different uh, sizes or weights. A few of them are like a very elegant, some they are very harsh in terms of the look and feel and also with the sound. And being having such differences, they are still living harmoniously in that Varnamala and create a beautiful language. So why can't we learn something from them? And so this is my attempt to relate to uh, this constitution and the grammar of this letter forms with uh, the human beings. These are the few artworks. Now, so that's it. I hope you like this presentation. Thank you, entire Sulekhan team, for inviting me and allowing me to share my work. Thanks once again, Tarun, Shikumar sir, and Achut Pala sir. Happy Calligraphy Day, all of you.